better public transports. It could be something even like a, your metro transportation or something like that. It is nowhere it is saying that e-mobility is all about cars, right? There is no mention about it. It is just about connected, autonomous, shared, and electric vehicles. That could be trains. It could be hyperpods, hyperloops. It could be something like cycles even. There is just no closed end suggestion to it. It is just open, right? It could be any of these things. So that is what e-mobility is, and this is the future. Whether I believe it or not, whether you believe it or not, the future is e-mobility. So which means all our lives. I believe there are people who are much more experienced and older than me. So I'm just talking from my experience. So pardon me if I say so. So the last 15 years plus my 5 years of engineering, I did my sandwich mechanical. So I spent 5 years doing my undergraduation. So the entire 20 years of my life, I've always identified myself as a mechanical engineer. But the future, it is not like that. The future does not distinguish between a mechanical engineer or an automotive engineer. Um, what we are actually like talking about is something like e-mobility, right? So e-mobility is where automobiles become electric, automobiles become connected, automobiles become shared, which means you need to bring the EEE engineers, the EC engineers, mechanical people, automobile people, even CSIT people to come together to build the car. So the first takeaway, there was something, the philosophy which I live by these days is forget about the traditional boundaries, and we need to kind of move forward, and we need to kind of blend pretty much all of these things, which means if you as a professional, if you were to shift over from academics to the industry, then you should kind of have a lot more detailed knowledge about powertrain. Powertrain is either IC engines, motors, or gearboxes on that side of things. You should know about control systems, because an engine this day will not run without an ECU. So ECU is an electronic control unit. So unless you understand control systems, unless you understand EEE, you're not going to be able to run your engines anymore. Similarly, any system that we do, we are going to subject it to a lot of testing and validation. And testing and validation is not just physical testing and validation, but computer-based things as well. So, I mean, this is just me blabbering about what skill sets you would need. So, this is made for professionals, but as academics, we could think that unless we as teachers have these skill sets, we're not going to be able to pass the right set of skill sets to our students, right? So, which is why I focus on these areas. Probably why you should, I wouldn't say you should do this. It says over here that you should do, but this is for students basically. But as teachers, maybe you should start thinking about it in a bit more seriously. And whether we like it or not, mathematics happens to be at the base of all of these things. And the moment we start understanding mathematics, the moment we start understanding how mathematical modeling works, this whole thing becomes much more easier. So another quick question for all of you here. How many of you here are proficient with MATLAB Simulink, MATLAB or Simulink or Scilab? How many of you here are proficient with it? Are you aware of what MATLAB Simulink is? Okay. No, okay. Super. So what I'll do is I'll very briefly touch on MATLAB Simulink as well, right? So that everyone is on the same line when it comes into it. Let me quickly skip it and skip all climate change, and maybe let me come into this, right? So now, I don't know if again this has been spoken about earlier. Please forgive me if there is something which I am repeating, because I'm not aware of how it had happened earlier. So for the people from the EEE side of things, this is how efficient your car is. So any kind of an energy that you put into the car, roughly about 20% of it is what gets translated into useful energy at the wheels, mechanical energy at the wheels. So your engine loses about roughly about 60 to 65% of the energy. You will lose it in the IC engine, right? So you put 1 liter of petrol, only about 200 ml of it gets converted into usable work at the wheels. The rest of it goes waste. Now, because it's so inefficient is why people started thinking about better ways to improve this. And one of the ways they tried doing it is by bringing something called as emission norms, right? So emission norms is basically the government telling the automotive manufacturers how much emissions they can basically allow, right? So now if you look at it over here, right, starting from Euro 3, which was introduced in the year 2000, to Euro 6, which is in 2014. The same Euro 6 is what we are struggling to implement currently, right? So with petrol and diesel, so the light blue thingy that you see inside here, that's basically what is the permissible limit. And the darker one outside, that is the real world, how much figures are happening, right? So now you see the real world figure is what the vehicle can produce when it is being driven on the road. So when you take petrol and diesel earlier, they had allowed quite a lot of emissions were like quite a lot of emissions were allowed. So what they're talking about here is one particular emission component, which is called as NOx emissions or nitrogen oxide. So they were allowing somewhere about 0.5 grams per kilometer of NOx emissions back in 2000. But of late, what has happened is that has come down to 0.08, right? So now the government is saying when we take your car and we put it in ARAI and we test it, it can only have 0.08 grams, whereas in real world, your car will produce 0.6 grams. I mean, you understand the difficulty, right? So in real world, a car which was producing 1 grams earlier, now you have to convert it into 0.6. Trust me, it is not just a 40% difference. There is a huge amount of effort which goes in to kind of make that happen. And even in that, what is permissible in the real world is 0.6, but when we test it, it has to be 0.08, which means 1/10 of whatever is the permissible in that. So all of these things, what basically it says is it becomes very difficult for manufacturers to make cars, which is why they start looking at hybrid and electric vehicles. So please don't misunderstand that they are trying to shift into electric hybrid because they have suddenly grown a conscience and they want to do good for the environment. That is not the case. The primary case is that the government is basically like putting the screws on their happiness, so they are not able to get away with it. They have to shift into something which is more sustainable. So immediately the next thing what people start talking is they say diesel cars are polluting, we need to go into electric vehicles, I need to do some research on electric vehicles. But see the point here is that and I think we're getting a lot of background noise. If the others, if you could just keep yourself on mute, please. Okay, so the point here is if you need to compare your electric vehicle with a regular car, you need to go with something called as a wheel-to-well efficiency. What is wheel-to-well efficiency? So this is something where we can compare things on a equal to equal basis. So now, say for example, I were to drive any car for 100 kilometers. Okay, I would need 11.6 kilowatt hours of energy. So that's basically what the figure you see here. Now, for you to produce this 11.6 kilowatt hours of energy, if you were to do it by using some electric vehicle or diesel or maybe some fuel cell, how much of energy would you spend? Let's start with oil first. So now, in order to produce 11.6 kilowatt hour at the car, you will have to produce around 54.1 kilowatt hour of diesel, right? So only if you produce 54.1 kilowatt hour equivalent of diesel at your oil well, maybe somewhere in Saudi Arabia, your car will run for 100 kilometers here. Now take that and compare it with an electric vehicle running on probably like conventional power. So conventional power is going to be something like your, coal-powered power plants. So if you take an electric car, you plug it into your charging system in India right now, you would need to produce 40.8 kilowatt hour equivalent of coal to make your car run 100 kilometers. So who is saying electric vehicles are clean in India? whomever is saying electric vehicles are clean in India, you'll have to tell them what is the difference between coal here and oil here. We have not taken into consideration the cost of mining batteries, lithium, cobalt, neodymium magnets. We have not taken that into consideration. The moment we take that into consideration, then obviously your electric cars at current times are going to be equally, if not more polluting than IC engines. Right. So don't even give up to that argument that electric vehicles are clean. They are not. Now, then immediately they shift over to the other side and they say, we are going to go with hydrogen fuel cells. Fuel cells are clean, right? That's something which a lot of people do. But in order to produce 11.6 kilowatt hour equivalent of energy using hydrogen as a fuel in the fuel cells, hydrogen-based fuel cells or proton exchange membranes are basically one of the most promising FC technology we have right now. And you see for that, you are still producing 39.1 kilowatt hour. Right? So none of the traditional methods are actually energy efficient, except when you charge your electric vehicle using renewables, maybe wind, maybe solar, geothermal, something like that. That is when you need only about 16.3 kilowatt hour. So which means if you were to compare an electric vehicle with what happens in the market right now, this basically does not make any sense unless all of our energy use, energy consumption is starting to come from renewable source, right? That is the takeaway. That just to set the goal, just to set the background about what electric vehicles are right now, and what is it that we are doing to kind of get started on this bandwagon. So just so that no one has the wrong opinion that electric vehicles are clean, I'm just putting it out here. Now, let's move on and let's start like looking at, maybe something a little bit more interesting, right? So the question I have for you is this. How does this car move forward? I know, I understand it's a rhetoric question. I know it is even borderline stupid, but how does the car move forward? Where does the energy to push a car come from? Obvious answer is, dude, you have an energy device in it. It's either a motor or it's an IC engine, or someone like in this case they are pushing it from the back. Makes it really really obvious, right? So now the second question is, how much force do you need to push this particular vehicle forward? Or let me probably put it this way. Say that I have maybe a car which weighs 1000 kgs, right? And I need to accelerate this car from 0 to 100 kmph in about 10 seconds, right? What would be the force that I need to apply on this? So if I were to ask you a very specific technical question like this, then how do you move forward with it? How do you proceed with it? Or instead of force, I ask you, what is the torque that is needed? Then how do you handle that? Or instead of torque, I ask you, how many kilowatt hours of energy do you need in order for you to accelerate a car which is weighing 1000 kgs from 0 to 100 kmph in 10 seconds? So these are the kind of questions that initially kickstart a discussion on electric vehicles. And this also gives you a perspective. So now instead, if I directly jump into the section on batteries and I keep talking about kilowatt, it will not give you a right, a perspective, right? I mean, I believe that it doesn't probably give you a right perspective. You basically are left wondering, what the heck is kilowatt hours all about, or what the heck is kilowatt all about? Why do you bother about kilowatt hour in a car? I'm pretty sure most of us, I mean, this would have most of us scratching our heads, because this happens to be primarily kilowatt hour, happens to be primarily in the triple side of things. And the moment I say torque, this happens to be in the mechanical side of things. And it becomes a little difficult for us to kind of link these things together. So what we're going to do is quickly see how we could link it together. I'm not going to explain the whole thing. I'm just going to show you what the equations could be, because this is not a primary area of discussion. I could just show you what the equations could be, and we're going to move forward from there. Right. So